So on today, I'm proud. I am proud of those of you who stood up for the 92 percenters. I am proud of those Caucasians and those non-African Americans who did all of the things yesterday, honey. If you took the time to make yourself a picket sign, if you went out there, if you marched, if you chanted, if you rallied, if you did all the things, I just want to come forth on today and tell you thank you and I say you. Especially my people who stood with the 92% and is trying to keep democracy alive, Lord, and is not African American. Those are the people in particular that I'm patting on the back on today. I am giving you all the props on today, honey. I love you guys. I love you, Blue supporters. Stay together, stand strong, stand united. Thank you. And for the African Americans who stayed your ass home on yesterday, thank y'all too. Everybody have a blessed day.
Did you know that yesterday's hands-off protests were peaceful, not because black people didn't show up, but because white people did? Hello, I'm Earl from CBU, Crackers Being Useful, and I want to get into this. I've been seeing some stuff about how peaceful the protests were yesterday, and people are correlating that with the fact that most black people stayed at home. If anything, this proves how aggressive the police are with black protesters. It has nothing to do with the protesters that didn't show up. It has everything to do with the protesters that did show up. It was peaceful because white people are treated differently by the police than black people. And another thing I want to add right here at the end is I'm seeing a lot of stuff from white folks talking about how we got to do something because they were raised white trash, they were raised poor, so on and so forth. I want you to stop for a second. If you've been telling yourself this, if you've been telling yourself that you know the black experience because you are white trash or raised poor, I need you to stop equating poverty with black people. Please. Y'all have a good day.
You know what, Randy? I gotta hand it to you. You were right about Trump. Ha! Told ya. About what? Trump really does pull historic crowds. I knew it. What was it, another rally? It was more like a worldwide screw you with clever signs. Wait, what? The April 5th hands-off protests. Over 1,300 rallies. Every single state. Millions of people worldwide. All against him? Against him, Musk, and every other wannabe in a red hat. But I didn't see this on the news. Of course not. 90% of the protesters were white. No one to demonize. Huh? If people of color had shown up in those numbers, the story would be violent mobs threatening America. That's not true. Randy, it's predictable. They stayed home so the message wouldn't be twisted into fear porn for Fox News. But Trump said people love him. Let me ask you something. If a guy's so beloved, why does he keep ending up in protest history books? What do you mean? He's responsible for 3 of the largest protests in American history. That can't be right. It is. Right up there with Vietnam and Iraq. And what did those have in common? Wars? Exactly. So ask yourself, what kind of leader gets protested like a war? That doesn't make sense. Probably just some small towns. DC, New York, Boston, LA, Chicago, Houston, Philly, even Salt Lake showed up. This many can't be mad. Oh, Europe joined in. London, Berlin, Paris. Imagine being the most hated person in the world. So, this wasn't just fringe people? This was the mainstream screaming into a megaphone. Damn. Yeah, congratulations. He finally made America united. This is just so hard to believe. Well, believe it. And ask yourself, if millions say Trump and Musk are the problem, is everyone else crazy? Or are you?
I just got off the phone with Kamala Harris, and no, I didn't. Hey, that's not true. That's not true. But if it were, if I did have a chance to have a conversation with her in regards to yesterday's events, I feel as if she would be so very incredibly proud. I know that she is very proud. I know that she understands that the disappointment doesn't come from those people that were marching yesterday, or the people that have been vocal, or the people that supported her throughout her campaign and still do. But, man, we needed her. We needed her. But what we needed even more, I fear, is this. We needed a revolution. We need to continue to be loud. We need to have uncomfortable conversations. We need to put our feet on the necks of the people in charge. And I don't know, guys, I keep saying it. I just feel very, very hopeful. Especially my timeline is filled with all the footage from yesterday. I Black women were so angry November 6th. We were so angry November 7th. We were so angry January 20th. We were so angry. Um, I don't think we are. I don't think we are as much. Um, yeah. You know what? Hell yeah.
If you're wondering where we're getting the numbers for these protests, it is from the organizers. The organizers have been very dedicated to counting the numbers and making sure that we document how many people are showing up at every single protest. That has been one of the main things we've been focusing on for months now. A lot of these protests had professional counters too, and then they report up to 5051, who's been working on having the protest at every capital in every 50 state for the last few months now, and they are all collecting the numbers so that we can report accurately how many people showed up and give that over to the media so they can't lie about what's happening and what's going on. That's why we're counting. And that's where we're getting these numbers. People have been really diligent to make sure that these are accurate. A lot of these protests are put on by lots of different organizations all over the country, hundreds of them. But we are trying to connect all the numbers and make sure that there are people at every single protest that are counting and making sure that we have accurate ways to know how many people are showing up. There are ways to accurately count mass groups of people, and there are people who are very good and skilled at this, and that's what's going on.
So the stock market is in legitimate free fall right now. It's not a little dip, all right? It is in fucking free fall. And there's a lot of people that are saying, well, that's a good thing. Everything's going to be cheaper and I'll finally be able to afford a house. Wrong. If you don't know by now, I'm CFH Unfiltered combat veteran and former sniper, and I am a real estate investor. During financial crises, credit dries up. So unless you have millions of dollars in liquid capital to buy up businesses and properties, bro, you're fucked. Big corporations usually ride these storms out because they can afford it. Small businesses, they go out of business because people stop spending money, and then you lose your job, and then you lose your house, and somebody with liquid capital buys it up for pennies on the dollar. That's literally what happened in the 2008 financial crisis. And yes, as the market recovers, interest rates will go down. Unless you have assets, a great credit score, some type of leverage, it's going to be difficult to get a loan. Big corporations, they expand, they gobble up that market share. They buy your homes, they buy your businesses. So yes, this is going to be great. If you have liquid capital, if you don't, it's going to hurt forever, bro. Not just for a little bit, okay? Forever. Go study how the 2008 financial crisis created a K-shaped economy.
But I want to make this video and say, hey, great job, everybody. Big nationwide protest, your state capital yesterday. I heard from other attendees here in Indy that there was 5,000 people downtown Indianapolis. Seen big crowds all over the country. And I just want to say thank you for stepping out of your comfort zone and going and protesting. I managed to get down to the protest in India. Posted a video yesterday. You can check out. I man the perimeter. And you know, the stock market is crashing, and I'd kind of been laughing it off. It doesn't help when you find out that 98% of all stock is owned by 10% of the US population. So, for perspective, that's about 3.5 million people. It's nothing. It's like 1 out of every 100 people owns stock. So if that's you and you're losing your ass in the stock market right now, oops. And also, again, I said I'm a socialist. A lot of people ask me, like, what is socialism? And you explain that it's like any egalitarian movement that's either a social policy or a political policy or an economic policy. And they ask things like, well, how do you feel about this stock market crash? And I'd say, well, the stock market can exist, right? And when it crashes because of ethics, things like Elon Musk is doing, where now Twitter is basically bankrupt and owned by XAI, and Tesla's stock is crumbling as well. Um, what you would do in a socialist society is you would have his employees secretly unionize, and then when that stock hits rock bottom, buy it up. Because otherwise, the people that are going to benefit from the stock market crash, unfortunately, are billionaires who, like Warren Buffett, got big gobs of cash out of their investments before all this shit happened. The Peter Thiels, they doing this on purpose. So remember, we have choices here. We could say, no, Jared, I'm a Democrat or a Republican until I die. Know that I'm pretty positive the Republican Party's in its death throes, and that there will be a split there between MAGA and, I hate to say, common sense Republicans. That sounds like a misnomer. Um, and then also, we've already heard of a split in the Democratic Party, where you have like the old guard, centrist, big money Democrats are going off on their own, and then they're leaving behind the younger generation, more of a sort of speaks to what's going on in society right now, where essentially you have the boomer generation, who this is all their fault, are trying to pull up the ladder behind them on their spaceship, and they're all hoping and praying that Elon Musk is correct and that Mars is habitable. And I can just tell you, from someone who went to Purdue for flight and aviation technology to be an air traffic controller, and then most recently was studying data analytics at Purdue, including using AI. The problem with the Mars project is the radiation on Mars makes any gear and equipment you drop on that planet worthless. You can't even bring it home. And so, again, zillions of dollars spent for what amounts to theater for these people. Remember, these people are out here playing with our lives for theater. It's entertaining to them. I keep seeing a video of a bomb going off in Gaza, and you can see the bodies flying through the air. And I'm like, why is this being shown everywhere? Because theater. Eventually, y'all get tired of that bloodthirsty shit. And yeah, feel pretty good about the stock market crashing and knowing that only a very small minority of people have stock, and know that you should still maintain some empathy, because lots of people are losing money on their 401k and on their retirement. And to them, I would just say, hey, pull all your money out of your retirement and put it in Eutelsat. EUTELSAT. It's the Starlink contributor. They're eating up Starlink contracts left and right. Germany yesterday, this past week, Canada, who canceled their Starlink contract, picked up a Eutelsat contract. And I'm telling you, that stock's going to blow up. Not literally. So yeah, I'm full of hope and rage, right? Like, yesterday was a clean protest. The only chucklefuck dumb enough to pull a gun was in Lafayette, Indiana, where fortunately that entire event was videoed. And let me explain this. why the gun toter is in the wrong. He rolled up in a vehicle on people on foot. 1. 2. Girl in the passenger seat rolls down the window, is using an air horn. 3. They came looking for that and they found it. And when old boy got out of his truck, third mistake, should have never left your vehicle. Okay? And gets headbutted and immediately plays the victim, goes back to his vehicle and grabs his fucking little AR. Just know he was a total pussy. That gun was never in the firing position. He was never firing on anyone. He did that because he was scared, and he should never be allowed to own a gun ever again. The cops said he was just defending himself. That's fucking stupid. If he hadn't rolled up on a crowd of people that are on foot with a vehicle, if he hadn't had his little girlfriend with a bullhorn at the side of the truck, if he hadn't gotten out of his fucking truck, right? None of this shit happens. This is entirely his fault. This is entirely a preventable thing. And yeah, go figure how to be in Indiana, but that looked like a paid actor if I've ever seen one. Reason why? That gun was not in the firing position. He had it in his left hand. He was never pulling the trigger. He was trying to draw attention. This is what's left of Donald Trump's regime. And so I'm happy to say no one died, but no one backed down. They stood up to that shit. Said, "Are you fucking kidding me? You went and got a gun out of your car? Get in your car and go home." And y'all are that little couple in that truck. Y'all are lucky somebody didn't just take a picture of your license plate and take pictures of you all. Find out where you live, and make your life miserable. You're lucky. And I also saw that they were trying to organize a counter protest and failed on Facebook, and that's why they rolled up and did all that shit. So understand, the movement is alive and well. From what I gather so far, no acts of violence. The only person dumb enough to roll up on anyone was in Lafayette, Indiana, so not the state capital, and they were trying to plan a counter protest and failed. And that's why that entire event happened. That was attention seeking. Makes me feel like they're paid actors. Because who else puts himself in that situation? Ask yourself. On what planet would you put an AR in your vehicle, drive to a protest, roll down your window with a bullhorn, drawing attention to yourself, right? So just be careful. There are chuckle fucks afoot, and understand that people like that have clearly done something wrong. It's just a matter of time before they get picked up. It's just the way the world works. They're showing out like that because they've done something wrong. Law enforcement will catch up with them eventually if they're not caping for them. So yeah, we'll be up live around 9 a.m. on YouTube and Clapper. You can check the links in my profile or find me. I'd prefer you on YouTube, because you can actually click the links I post in the chat. Anyway, have a good rest of your day. Keep going.
So last night I watched a video from an American creator who was asking his non-American followers what they were seeing in the news about what was happening in the States. And he finished up his set of questions with, if the US is 1930s Germany, who is the 1940s United States? And here's my take on that. As I think about the 1940s United States and who their modern equivalent might be, I think about it as, who is the country who is sitting back, ignoring the rise of fascism, doing nothing while the rest of the world unites against them? At least until maybe at some point something affects them directly, and then they'll take action. And so I would argue that the 1940s United States is in fact 2025 United States, in addition to them being 1930s Germany. And I have to say, this is not to take away from the millions of people who marched yesterday in the hands-off protests, because obviously there are people who are starting to do something. But if you look at it from the perspective of, sort of the national government perspective, what is the Democratic Party doing to oppose the rise of fascism in the States? As far as I can tell, literally nothing. It is going to be up to the people through movements like Hands Off and protests to make their voices heard.
The Trump administration has finally explained why they put tariffs on penguins, and the answer is exactly as you would expect. Now today, the Trump admin is making the rounds on all the Sunday morning shows trying to defend Donald Trump's tariffs, and they're not having a very good time of it. Just take a listen to this.
Why are you putting import tariffs on islands that are entirely populated by penguins?
Well, I mean, come on, Jake. Obviously.
Yeah, that's about what you would expect as an answer. And this is the problem with Trump. There's nobody that has any clue what's going on. Now, she eventually does spit out that she believes the people putting together this plan are the best and the brightest in the country. Well, clearly not when the presidential administration is being asked with a straight face, why did you tariff penguins? This is what we are dealing with. This is why the country is in so much trouble, because we have people like this knowing full well they're trying to defend the indefensible.
Look, I'm just going to throw out this word salad, and it comes out however it is. I was watching a clip on TikTok, I guess S.E. Cup, her name is, she's a reporter or journalist, and she said Kamala Harris lost because of her policies. She wanted affordable housing. She wanted to help people get into their first house. She wanted to help small businesses start. She wanted universal health care. She wanted voting rights. She wanted women's rights. Yeah, S.E. Cup, those sound like really horrible, awful policies. How dare she do that? How dare she offer hope? And see, S.E. Cup, you're actually the reason we're still here. Because you refuse to accept what this country is. The only policy that people rejected was that Vice President Harris was a black woman. She could have cured cancer, and it wouldn't have mattered. But S.E. Cup, your mentality is why we're still here, because you refuse to go on radio or TV every day and talk about it, because you're afraid of losing viewers. We're here because people chose a convicted felon, a man who sexually abuses women, who performed oral sex on a microphone, who called Puerto Rico a floating pile of garbage, who had dinner with Nick Fuentes, who led an insurrection on the United States government, who still lied about the election. The man who moves hurricanes with Sharpies, who lied 30,000 times. And you really have the caucasity to say, oh, people didn't like her policies. This country has never addressed the white patriarchy. Period. End of story. Why don't you report on that, S.E. Cup? Because that's what we're fighting. What do you see at the protests? I'll tell you what I see at the Tesla takeovers. I see a bunch of diversity. I see young students, people, women that fought in the women's rights movement. I see gay people, trans people, straight people, Asian, Hispanic. You know what I see on the other side? Trump supporters? A bunch of pissed off little children with beards, camouflage, military boots, American flags, and pet bald eagle tattoos. Because that's what this is really about. When you look at the demographic of the protests, it's the same ignorant trailer trash, white platinum victim grievance people that worship the flag more than what it represents. It's this twisted and sick patriotism. It's almost a religion. They worship the flag. They pray to the flag. They have freedom toothpaste and freedom underwear and American flag condoms. And before breakfast, they do the Pledge of Allegiance. And they sing to it. They pray to it. They have holidays for it. But they'll never take a minute to say, when was it great for everybody? I wonder, what did a black person 100 years ago, how did this American flag represent them? I wonder about our Asian Americans that were put in internment camps. How does that flag represent them? How do they see it? How about women? When they were treated like second-class citizens, how were they treated? But you don't want to have that conversation, SE Cup, because it makes you uncomfortable. People that look like you and I, white Americans, we have to pull their hoods off and expose them for what we are. This is not our black brothers and sisters' mess to clean up. This is ours. Because in 1787, white slave owners, who were pieces of human garbage, owned black people. And this country was designed for 21-year-old white men to benefit. And they said that black people were only worth 3/5 of a person. And then after signing the Constitution, they went home and had the slaves pick their goddamn cotton. That's why we're here, SE Cup. How about you report on actual history and not white history? How about you get off your place of privilege in your white entitlement and actually report on why people voted for the white supremacist? He wears orange makeup and diapers. Maybe you should report on that. Because maybe, just maybe as a country, at some point, if more people like you and I speak up, and if you use your platform to speak out about the white supremacy in this country, maybe we can then progress. But as long as people like you keep putting your head in the sand and being ignorant and saying it's about policy instead of about make America white again, we're never going to progress, SE Cup. Be better.
I want to explain something to you. Obviously, what's happened with the announcement of these tariffs has been horrific. The stock market has cratered. People have lost money. People are freaking out. Even Republicans are freaking out. But what you have to understand, it's not even close to over as yet. The market opens up again Monday. Remember, we lost 2,200 points on the Dow on Friday. What do you think is going to happen Monday? Nothing improved the situation. It's probably going to drop more. The other thing you need to know is these tariffs don't take effect till Wednesday. So this is just the planning, the talking about the tariffs. They take place Wednesday, and that's when the true problems come. That's when the prices get higher and people lose jobs. That's when it's all going to happen. Now, I've been listening to some of Trump's cabinet talk about this, and one person I heard from, I can't remember who it was, because they're all dumb motherfuckers, but this is what he said. He said, you have to understand what was going on with Joe Biden was going to cause an economic calamity. We had to do this in order to stop that economic calamity. Well, let me explain something. For 4 years, Joe Biden's been in office. In those 4 years, Joe Biden has pulled us from the depths that Donald Trump left us in the first place with COVID. The economy has grown. The stock market has grown to record numbers. Unemployment went down. GDP went up. Everything was going in the right direction. There was no indication of any calamities. So now what you're telling me is in order to avoid a Joe Biden calamity, that there's no evidence that there would be any, you have to create a manufactured calamity. That's just fucking stupid. That's stupid. That's gaslighting. That's trying to hoodwink us. Well, your people might be stupid enough to buy that, but we intelligent folks, we normal-minded folks, we don't buy it. It's bullshit. It's gaslighting.
I want to talk about this comment because it's something that I used to think about a lot. And this particular comment comes from a video that I stitched with a black man who was saying, why is it always the Democrats that are protesting? I know the reason, because conservatives are always at their jobs. They don't have time to protest. See, I really thought about this a lot, especially when Trump was putting together his new cabinet. And the person I kept coming back to was Kash Patel, because we know that the Trump administration and those that support it are a lot of those people. But the other thing we know about that as sort of this like subset of being that is there's a lot of Islamophobia. And the fact that anyone would look like someone from the Middle East was like very contradictory in my brain about how they operate and how they, have put travel bans on individuals from the Middle East and all these other things historically. So I did a little research and I learned an interesting thing. While racism still exists There becomes a threshold in which a person's race doesn't matter. Hang with me. There are a few things that Trump, no pun intended, race when it comes to a group of people who are racist. And one of those things is power, and the other thing is wealth. So you have a group of men, let's use men as an example. I'm sure it happens with women too. You have a group of men in the Trump cabinet who believe that women are inferior, who believe that the wealthy should abuse and use the lower classes in order to stay wealthy and to stay in power. And that creates essentially the boys' club. And if you think along those lines, if you have money, if you have power, then the white supreme pizzas, they're going to let you in. And then the people who are non-white are okay with being this sort of token, if you will. Because the reality is, it doesn't matter what someone's race, sex, religion, sexual orientation, because there is a gay man in the cabinet, by the way, right now. It doesn't matter what those things are once you've reached this threshold, because power is power. Those people that seek power from all of these different demographics and identities are all the same now, if that makes sense. None of these individuals are stupid. They all know how they are using each other, because the straight white male supreme pizzas, they need certain tokens in order to show, hey, like, we're not racist, we're not homophobic. And on the other side of the coin, people who are non-white or people who are gay, like our Secretary of the Treasury, Mr. Besant, they don't care about being the excuse for, well, we're not homophobic and we're not racist. Because power is power. And in this situation, everyone is hungry for it, and anyone in this group is willing to shovel a little shit to get it.